Good evening. Welcome to the May 9th, 2017 meeting of the Millis School Committee. I will start by announcing that this meeting is being recorded and can be viewed on Mondays at 7 o'clock on Comcast Channel 8 or Verizon Channel 37. First, I will start by welcoming Carrie and congratulations on your election to the board. I also want to take a moment to thank Sean Doherty for his service of 6 years on the committee, and appreciate his service and dedication over that time. So I will now move to our roll call vote. To my left, Denise.
Here.
Carrie.
Yes.
I'm here. Nancy.
Here.
Steve.
Present.
Jen.
Here.
Teacher representative.
Here.
And our outgoing senior student representative.
Here.
Jody, anybody signed in for open session?
No.
All right. And I will move to action items, consideration to approve the April 25th school committee meeting minutes.
Mr. Chair,
Mr. Callahan.
I make a motion to approve the April 25th, 2017 meeting minutes.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Next is consideration to approve the middle school handbook. Someone come on up?
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Thank you for taking the time to consider the changes that we're proposing to the middle school handbook. You have them in your packet. They're about 11 pages or so. I apologize for the length. But in looking through the handbook, it appears that it hadn't been updated in quite some time, and some of it, the language was just outdated, or it didn't reflect the current policies and procedures and things that were going on in the middle school. So we, together with school council and staff, we went through it with a fine-tooth comb. And what I did in your packet is just to include the parts that we wanted to update. Anything in blue is words added, and anything crossed out would be things we would eliminate. So not quite sure whether you want to go through it line by line.
I don't think we need to go line by line, but if you just want to give us some.
I could give you just some highlights.
Yeah.
Parents seem to sometimes not be sure of our attendance policy, so we wanted to highlight the attendance procedures, calling in, the phone call, reporting an absence, things like that, and truancy. We wanted to highlight the fact that although we allow students to have cell phones in school, we should typically ask them to keep them off and out of sight unless the teacher gives them permission, which frequently they're used for class projects or something. But we also wanted to just make it stated in the handbook that students aren't necessarily allowed to call parents during the school day, or parents calling children during the day. So that's been added in a few times. We just updated our after-school clubs and homework clinics, some of the sports that are available for middle school in the policies. Again, telephone use. The harassment policy, we simply added gender identity to the list of things that are not tolerated. If you look at academic expectations, that page, that seemed to have a little bit more updating to it, based on the fact that we're starting to issue standards-based report cards this year. So grade 5 received standards-based, while 6, 7, and 8 had traditional report cards, but next year it'll be 5 and 6 with standards-based report cards. So we just updated the language to include how those grades are reported with proficiency scales and a rubric.
Mr. Chair.
Yep.
Does this follow a standard template that you referenced somewhere? You mentioned that the wording is kind of standard and just updated.
So I took it, our handbook is printed in the agenda book. So just took this and went through it and made some changes. So the sections that we changed, it's in the order that it falls in the current handbook.
So it's not as if the state provided the template that you follow with updated
No,
general
no,
guidelines?
we just,
Okay,
I was working off what's been there for a while.
gotcha, okay.
Mr. Chair,
Mhm.
I make a motion to accept the changes to the middle school handbook as highlighted in our document.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion?
Just to clarify, I'll put this to Nancy, the revised concussion policy and subsidies are consistent with what we have just recently done, correct?
Correct. In fact, what you approved at Mr. Mulaney's handbook, I
Well,
believe
yes.
this is exactly the same language, so it references the policy but gives a little synopsis.
Okay, I'm all set.
Further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Great. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you.
All right. Handbook, then, student representatives.
You should go to them.
Yeah.
One last time.
Yes.
Come on.
Going to say something? Do you want to? Ooh, this is my favorite one. The seniors' last day is this Friday, May 12th. Prom at Lake Pearl last Friday was a success. Pop's concert for the band and chorus is Thursday, May 11th, and the last week of AP exams is this week.
Hold on.
Stay there.
Stand down. Stand down.
First, thank you guys both very much for your years of sitting here listening to us and providing service and giving us updates on what's going on. We wish you guys both a ton of luck going forward in college, and we have Nancy. Congrats, we have a little parting gift for you guys.
Your names are on their tags now.
Why don't you guys, where are you guys going?
Yeah.
I'm going to Sacred Heart next year.
Thus.
I'll be going to North Carolina State University next year.
Cool.
Excellent.
Congratulations. Should we open them now?
Yes.
Okay.
They're puppies. We need to feed them and give them water.
What do you mean, where are you going to school next year?
Gotta tell for the camera.
Oh, thank you. Oh my god. So we always wear, yeah,
totally could. It's gonna be cold enough.
we have to wear our t-shirts and stuff tomorrow about like our future plans. So.
Oh, well, there you go.
Perfect. Thank
Well,
you.
good luck and thank you for both of you.
It's in the book.
Thank you.
Bye,
You're
guys.
welcome.
Bye.
Safe graduation. For all schools, anyone that's interested, Millis CPAC will be hosting a movie night this Friday night, May 12th, in the Clyde Brown Library. It is going to begin at 6 p.m. They're showing the movie Sing, and water and popcorn will be offered. Then at Clyde Brown, grade 4 field day is June 13th. That doesn't make sense. It must be
Saturday.
June 12th or June 14th. I got that off the Clyde Brown website, sorry. First and third grade field days will be June 14th. That's not gonna work either, that's Sunday. June 15th is second grade field day. Maybe the dates are next week, I don't know, sorry. but they're coming up. Oh, no, June. I'm
June,
thinking
that's
May.
right, yeah.
No wonder I'm confused, sorry about that.
Okay.
Middle school, grades 5 and grade 7 are having MCAS this week, and, yeah, today and tomorrow. And then the middle school spring concert is going to be at 7 p.m. And I believe that grade 8 is also having MCAS next week, the same days as the high school. High school has MCAS on the 16th and 17th, and that would be the math for the sophomores. The high school art show is May 9th, and the MCAS for math is next week, June. What is it, 4th and 5th, or 5th and 6th are going to have the MCAS for biology. Senior week is next week. It starts on Monday and goes through the week. The seniors will have a lot of activities, so they won't be in academic classes, but they will be coming and going all week long. Senior projects will be the week of the 22nd through the 26th, and any volunteers that would like to go over and help judge at the library are welcome. And even just community members wishing to witness them are strongly urged to go over and watch. Some of them are really quite amazing, and they all do a great job, so it's nice to see their hard work. And I'd just like to add one thing to the prom. Mr. Mullaney was complimented at the end of the evening by the manager of Lake Pearl for the conduct of the high school students, so he felt very proud of them for their work, so thank you.
Moving on to superintendent's report. Review enrollment.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, in your packets you have May enrollments updated. The only change is that a family that had been choicing their students into Millis have now, the family has now moved to Millis, so you see a reduction in 2 choice students. We do get credit for the monetary reimbursement for the state for the amount of time they were choicing in, but from the time they move in, then that is adjusted. And 1 more student at the elementary school.
All right, moving to the chairman's report. First thing we'll do. The members of the board from the Metro West Basketball Association reached out to me a few weeks ago about discussing rental fees and seeing if there was any ability for us to look at giving them some relief. So they had sent some schedules together. We've got a summary in our packet that Jody had today that we can go through. So you guys want to come up and just kind of brief kind of overview. I know you guys are looking at fees going up other
I have to do
places.
it at the time that I did it.
Is it not in there? We have extras of plans.
Mr. Ledoux?
He was here first, you should be.
We're afraid of him.
They don't want me to come up. We don't
Is
want
this
to
it?
come up.
There's a
Are
text.
they updated?
You make a quote that says
That says,
June.
yeah.
Oh,
it is? Okay.
Can we start by congratulating the 2 of you on your
Thank
victory a couple weeks ago? Nice work.
Thanks, Jody. Everybody had it? Yep.
Yeah, so this gives a breakout of the cost that they've incurred for this past year. So the rent expense at the 2 buildings, both the practice and then games, and then the custodian cost for all of the time. So currently they only pay custodians for the Saturday practices and Sunday games because the custodians are already here during the week. Then, as you walk down this page, the board has made donations both to the program and to benefit the facility to add in over the course of the last couple of years. Then there's the reason the Sunday rate is highlighted is because right now, due to space constraints, the league has to use Mass Premier in order to host a series of games, a large number of games actually. And the cost at Mass Premier per hour, so for each game, is $70. So they were just looking at comparison of what they pay here between rental fee and custodial fees, which is double time on a Sunday. And so in reality, by and large, they almost break even by playing games at Mass Premier. And then part of what the other part is one of the practice facilities is the Rental Development Center, which only charges $20 an hour for practice fees and that. So that's walking through the sheet. What are you guys seeing in terms of what you're up against and kind of what brought you to ask to examine?
I mean, our biggest problem is most of the kids are all Millis kids. We probably have 3 kids in the whole program that are school choice that are outside. Another thing is we're the cheapest around, but due to the amount of kids that we want to keep in the program, we need a lot more space because of the spring sports, summer sports, winter sports that are using the gym. We only can get in 6 to 9. So we have to go to Rentham, we have to go to Sage, we have to go to Charles River to rent, and that's a lot more money. Big problem that we're having is the price that we charge a kid to play. We want to keep the kids in the program, and we're going to have to go up in salary because how much the kids are playing because of Charles River, Rentham, Sage, any other place we're looking at are doubling their rental fee next year. We do not want to turn away a kid. And with prices and everything going up, it's going to happen. We lost a few kids this year. We try to get them back in by trying to work it. We're trying to find different ways. We meet a lot as a board, different ways to keep the cost down. We're one of the few places that haven't gone up since we've been on the board, and we want to keep it that way because we bring in more kids every year, and we're one of the biggest programs in Metro West. We want to keep it that way, but we don't see that happening if we have to go up in price. If it stands right now, we're definitely going to go up in price if we don't do anything. First thing we looked at was the Millis High School and Clyde Brown, what we pay to rent the gym.
So right now it's $250. And if
To play.
To play, it's $250 per kid.
And what do you think you might have to go to if, given everything you've got on the table right now?
Well, based on the number of teams that we have total, there's just, you know, and you guys all know, I think everybody, with the exception of maybe Nancy, has a child or 2 in the program. And there's only so much gym space in town. Rentham's great. Now, granted, it's a state facility. We get that. I'm sure that contributes to why the price is what it is. But we sort of had a Charles River, which is over in Dover Sherburne. They've already given us a heads up that they're going up in price next year, and that sort of leaves us struggling and scrambling to find other gym space. Would like to keep it in town. I mean, it's one thing, I mean, never mind what the cost of the facility is. Once you go out of town, you know, gas money, you know, there's other variables that come into play there. And so we'd like to keep as much gym space in town as possible just from the convenience factor. And so in the Mass Premier, their fees are going up. The cost to put a team into Mass Premier is going to go up. I think the referee fees are eventually going to go up. The insurance costs are going to increase, and just the cost of doing business is going up. And so we're looking for some relief, some flexibility with the Millis facilities, so we'd love to keep the price as is. I mean, you know, this is just a microcosm of sort of the big picture of Millis. You know, where there's other expenditures coming through, as we all know here, right? And so anything we can do to sort of keep the price as is, if not lower it. I mean, you know, we're non-for-profit, so if the price to rent the facilities goes down, you know, we'd love to lower the fee if possible. And so,
Mr. Chair. Mr. Miller, do you have any idea on that? Do you have any idea what it would go up to if the fee stayed the same in 17, 18 with the other facilities raising? Have you guys had a ballpark figure on what the increase would be? What would the delta be?
We don't know because they haven't said what they're going up yet. So Charles River is one that said they might double. So I mean, right now it's like $60 an hour.
so
But
I
two
would
gyms,
say
which
if
is
you need a
120.
number, I would say it would probably have to go up at least $25, $25 to $50 a player, which
Potentially more?
call it 300 up from 250.
So in your opinion, based on what you've done, because you guys have been involved with the program for a long time, would a $50 increase or maybe more, would you lose players with that?
I think so.
Yeah, what it would also do is, one of the reasons that we wanted to highlight some of the stuff that we've given back is that if there is more money that that we have as a board, we want to give it back. Like, that's the thing. Like, you know, we helped pay for the new backboards over at Clyde Brown, the scoreboard at the high school, multiple banquets. Some of the stuff, I mean, I don't think there's a problem with us disclosing it, but we're talking generalities. You know, on an annual basis, we've given back to certain winter sports programs, and we'll continue to do that. It just seems that it's almost like robbing Peter to pay Paul, I guess, for lack of a better analogy, you know, especially where it's all Millis. And there's not a lot of gym space in town, and so we're limited in that respect. So any flexibility would be a huge assistance to the program, short-term and long-term.
I think another problem too is, you know, all your kids are playing more than one sport. They're all of a sudden you get this $5,000 you want to play, you know, basketball, soccer, all at once. And that's why we don't want to go up in price. Your club sports are all going up. All the other sports are going up, and we want to keep all the kids in. I mean, we've had the most kids this year playing, and that's why we had to go outside and get more gym time. And if they're all going up, we're trying to find better ways to lower cost and keep the kids in the program.
The other thing that we did with our research is we talked to other towns to see what they're paying. We have acquaintances in Medway, Walpole, Dover, Sherburne, and some of the local ones. I know some of those towns may or may not be sort of similar across the board, and their fees are within range of what ours are, but it includes playing rec as well. So our fees, if you looked at it sort of as an apples to apples comparison, I think our fees are a little bit higher. And all of those towns I mentioned, their practices are in town. So, the number's 250, but when you factor in driving out of town multiple times a week, never mind the pure cost of it, but then there's the inconvenience of having to deal with, maybe leaving work early to get somebody to a practice, and that type of stuff can be frustrating too.
One other question, not directly related to fees, but more of a longer term piece. If we get to town meeting and the school passes in final, when
It passes.
it's got a full-size gym in the build, how will that help 3-4 years from now?
I don't think it's going to help at all, only because the
Not
Clyde
from
Brown's
this.
the same right now.
But not from this, but the ability to
So have more
utilize
practice
it,
time there, or
either
just
more practice time or games or
Games would be a
tournaments.
difference, because then we wouldn't have to use Mass Premier, but the only problem is Mass Premier, we pay $70 an hour. Sundays, we would have, right now, we pay $80 an hour depending on which janitor works on a Sunday. So I don't think it's really gonna help us because you still have the same number of courts that you have at Clyde Brown now. But we're not gaining anything.
But won't we be able to have a better position to?
Potentially,
For-
depends on how the, it
For
depends on how the gym.
outsourcing?
It
bring
would
people
depend
in
on
the
what the
summer.
gym structure is, but it's more important for that to pass. Don't worry about us with the passing of the
Yeah,
school.
No, I'm more wondering about other revenue opportunities beyond what we're using it for now, if we have two
I don't-
full-size gyms.
I don't know if that would exist, only because the Clyde Brown gets so much high school usage. You know what I mean? With,
Yeah.
and then who knows, maybe there's some middle school, now that there's a bit better facility there, maybe there's a 7th, 8th grade middle school team that comes along down the road. So I don't know if, I think those might be mutually exclusive.
Mr. Chair. I don't know if there's other questions, but I'm willing to make a motion.
I have a question, if
Yeah.
I may, Mr. Chair. Have you, so the Charles River and Mass Premier are for-profit, correct? They are corporations. Have you approached them for any relief?
So Charles River is in a unique situation because, are you aware where they're located?
No.
Okay, so they're right in the middle. They're literally in the middle of Dover, Sherburne, Walpole, Westwood, Needham. So if Millis goes bye-bye, they're fine. You know, we need them more than they need us.
Okay.
And they have like 6 or 7 towns using their facility, and we haven't. The reason we were able to sort of maintain it this year, and should continue to do so, is just because of the relationship we have over there. But the fees are absolutely going up, and it's a limited gym space anyway. Mass Premier, again, you know, because of the relationship we have with Mass Premier, you know, we do get some discounts on summer leagues because of the volume of teams that we put in there. But you're talking about 75 towns that use Mass Premier. So any type of relief would be minimal at best.
What do you guys have an ideal scenario, or what would kind of get us to maintaining costs at a normal, or at what they
reach for the stars, or do you want? I mean, we know we can't touch the custodial thing, and we have no problem with that. The Sunday thing, we understand that, we have no problem with that. But we're gonna start at, you know, bare minimum. We don't wanna, we're asking for 0 rental fee, and then we'll go from there. I mean, that's where, it's all Millis kids. We're already paying taxes, we're already paying to use the facility. It's all Millis kids. And that's what we're looking at.
That was a loaded question, like it's what do you want to spend on this?
Well, I mean, I won't spend 0, but.
But I get it, I think it's a fair
I
question,
get it,
I have
yeah.
0 problem with you saying 0, but unfortunately, later on, we're gonna talk about what we put in the revolving accounts, we spend, so when we make money on facility rental, we spend it all out. We're a nonprofit in that regard, we're not banking any money, so we're not in a position, I don't think, to go to a 0 at this point. I'm willing to make a motion that we reduce the fees for Metro West basketball by 50% for the upcoming year.
Second.
The custodians have to stay. We
understand that.
Every
Yeah.
single group that comes through, we have to pay the custodians.
So just on the rental.
Just on the rental. We can't touch the custodians. We're paying them.
Right.
And we're only when you would only be paying the custodians when they're not in.
Saturday and Sunday, that's all we're paying for now, yeah.
So that would be roughly a $6,000 road.
If we're looking at last year's, the total cost was 11,973. So if we round up to 12,000, we can say up to a 50% reduction up to 6,000.
Mr. Chair, I don't know if you're opening up the discussion now since I seconded.
Go right ahead.
How many students are in the program right now?
Right now, there was 150, I believe, 155. somewhere around there. And we never know who's coming in the following year. You don't know if kids leave or not, so we can never put a prediction on how many kids are gonna try out or.
So that's relief of about $40 per child for the $6,000 reduction, right?
Well,
Crack yourself up over there.
well, how about we not, because then it can be complicated if we say up to 6,000. How about it's just a 50%
Yeah, just
reduction
cut it.
in the
Yeah.
hourly
Yeah.
fee?
Yeah.
Because then it's gonna become a nightmare to try to figure
But
out.
plus team,
Yes,
you know,
there's
just
40.
because we had X amount of teams this year, we might not have that amount of
Fair
teams next year,
So
so.
we'll base it on the hour, which we've done for others.
Do you feel like that's a?
I think that's a great start.
Miss-
Yeah. And I-
Mr. Chair, if I may. I would like to propose tabling it until we can do a little more research because actually I'm working on with an outside consultant for free to look at our fee structure, and I was actually going to be proposing we increase our facility fees as part of the bigger fee analysis that we often do during the summertime. We didn't get to it last year, but I am concerned, given budgets, it's not that I'm not supportive, it's just that the timing is such that I'd like to table it for a couple months until we can do the analysis. I think there's, yes, for 8-9 years in Millis, we've kept all our fees very low, and it's time to look at that again. A couple years ago, Ms. Sewell did a very good analysis of, with Mr. Catalano in a fee-based subcommittee that we're looking at getting in place perhaps a modest inflationary 3 to 5% for our fee for different programs each year, because by holding them flat for the past 9 years, we've dug ourselves into a little hole of not having revenue, and our budgets frequently are cutting personnel because we don't have, we just don't have the revenue coming in from the state and the town, etc. So it's a proposal. I understand the need, and both my girls, a 12 and a 15-year-old, play basketball and softball and all the things. So I'm a big supporter of youth sports, but I'd like to take a step back and look at our fees in general, and facilities was one that we do comparisons with all the surrounding towns, figuring that that's our, you know, the area that we should be comparing to, but also with some similar demographic districts. So I'd like to just suggest that maybe we have not had a chance to pull together all the information on the facility rental. It did get us through the year in terms of paying for roof repairs, things like that that are essential. The buildings are aging, the facilities are aging, so we are finding that we're just needing to use that revolving account for a lot more repairs.
Mr. Chair, a motion was made, it's my motion, it was seconded. I'm not prepared to table it, we have to take a vote regardless. I don't want to get into a philosophical discussion about raising fees, but I think we had talked about very targeted raising of fees of programs that were not meeting their expenses, and we raised the fees in preschool, and that was the only program. I personally am not a fan of raising fees in one program to pay for other activities, so I don't want to table this. I think we have to go through a vote because it's already been put out there. I'm still prepared. I'm not persuaded to remove my motion, so I'm ready for a vote.
So it would be, the motion on the table is a 50% reduction. It would be a $6,000 relief based on what you paid last year. The other factor in would be the last 2 years, there's been donations of $2 and $3 grand. So if you factored in the fact that based on everything else, and all those, if those weren't in there, then that's an $8,000 to $9,000 shift. would be the end result, impact on you guys. The impact on the school is a $6,000 out of the revolving, out of the revolving account, out of the school rental fee. I guess one question I have for you guys is, and it probably relates more to the games than the practices, just from space-wise, but does Mass Premier have more, if you found that it became more cost-effective to be down at Mass Premier, do they have more space to facilitate games that you, not that anybody wants to drive down there for games, I get it, but if that became a dollars and cents issue, is there space down there that would allow you guys to put more games?
I don't know if that is, but I don't think that's much of a cost savings, because $70 to go to Mass Premier and it's $80 for a year.
That's what I'm saying. So would it put you in a position to have to think about putting more in Mass Premier?
It would, and that's definitely not the direction that we want to go. I mean, the charm of the Metro West travel basketball is the Sunday games and the energy in the gym and the local vibe with the different families. And I get it, there's budgets and dollars and cents and all that stuff, but there's also a lot of intangibles that come into play, building community spirit, and that stuff should and continue to happen at the high school on Sundays.
So there's been a motion, it's been seconded. Any further questions or discussion?
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
I would just say that, just to Nancy's point, I understand the discussion around the fees, but say, for example, we increased the fees by the 6550 by 3 or 5%, and if they had a 50% reduction on that increase, we're only talking like $2 or $3. So I mean, it's, it would be a benefit to us, but there'd still be savings, significant savings for this organization. So we could vote for this 50% reduction and still consider fees on the side as a separate conversation.
All those in favor of the
Aye.
motion?
Aye.
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 Aye. Okay. All those opposed? Motion carries. All right. Thanks, guys.
That's awesome. And just in closing, I will say we'll continue to provide donations where need be to whatever the cause or party, if it's in the best interest of a particular team, town, or whatever it is. So this is awesome. Thank you.
And Mr. Chair, if I may, it's an awesome program. I want you to know that it's not this particular fee, it's our fee structure in general that needs looking at, and that you guys do a fabulous job. It's a great feeder program. The proof is in the pudding that it benefits so many kids in town. I'm a big believer in youth sports, so I appreciate all the volunteer hours that you put in.
Thank you.
So,
Thank you.
thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
All right. Budget update. I'll do a brief budget update. We'll do a working session later. At the Finance Committee meeting last Wednesday, the Finance Committee, with my involvement, proposed a budget that was an alternative to the selectmen's budget. The key differences are that instead of using stabilization funds to pay for the stormwater cost, the Finance Committee's proposal uses free cash. What that does is it makes less free cash available, and the selectmen's budget utilized $378,000 in free cash to provide level service budgets with some increases. We backed everything out and came down to the original 65-35 split. That provided just under a level service budget for the town's municipal departments. It left us with a $160,000 shortfall. The Finance Committee's proposal has one-time expenditures increase the snow and ice budget and adds 2.5 positions, one being the additional hours to provide a resource officer here all with free cash. So the Finance Committee's proposal uses $150,000 of free cash to balance and add some positions to the municipal budgets. We will go through in the working session, but we'll have to identify how we will cover the $160,000 in shortfall for our operating budget. Again, the selectmen have their own budget, so we will see at town meeting in between now and town meeting how that goes forward. But the Finance Committee's budget recommendation is the one that will be first presented to town meeting. So they present their recommendation. So the one that will be voted on initially will be the Finance Committee's recommendation.
Mr. Chair, I have a question just on town meeting, actually.
Yeah.
Is there a possibility that two budgets are presented at town meeting?
No, what would have to happen is the Finance Committee will make their motion. Their motion will be their proposal. It is an option where someone can stand up and make an amendment to the motion, which would be to amend the budget. And that's always, so if people opted to try and amend the budget either towards the selectmen's budget or to something else, that would be how it would be managed. And then it's jockeying for how to move the money all around. Because the Finance Committee's budget is balanced, as is the selectmen's budget. So if you take it from one place, you gotta figure out where it comes from.
Mr. Chair, can you just run through the difference again between the Finance Committees and the Board of Selectmen's
Yeah,
budget?
the net result is, in total dollars, it's $200,000. The Finance Committee's total spend is $200,000 less than the selectmen's. The reason for that is because the Finance Committee removed stabilization as a source of funding for the stormwater.
Okay.
So then it just left free cash. The process that was undertaken was we ran through all the calculations as has historically been done, getting down to a quote-unquote new money. So we took total revenue, excluded one-time money, free cash, and stabilization. So we pulled that out. So we started with a revenue number where it was just recurring revenue. We then backed out the cost of employee benefits, tri-county costs, and general insurance, which actually increased, the total of it increased about $300,000, the sum of those three. Then came down to a number which is the amount available for budgets. First cut is to level fund every department. So we took last year's voted budget, subtracted that from the available funds, calculated a number, down to $625,000
Shortfall?
of new money.
Excess, okay.
That we then allocated 65-35.
Okay.
So we ended up getting $450,000 towards our level service request of $600,000.
Okay.
The town received $218,000 on their $250,000.
Okay.
So that's using all recurring money. The Board of Selectmen's budget funded multiple positions. The resource officer, an assistant for the fire department, a second ALS.
And these are all above and beyond level service?
All above
from
and
last
beyond
year.
level service.
Right.
So the Selectmen's budget funded all of those. The finance committee, albeit with free cash, funded 2 out of those 3.
Okay.
The intent there, as the finance committee described it, was to try and get as much of what was possible done out of what the selectmen proposed, but to minimize the amount of free cash that was in the budget.
Right.
Based on conversations we had and some movements I figured we could do, in addition to the fact that to just pump that much free cash into the operating budget is just not
It's concerning.
smart.
Right.
So,
Set things up for an override the next year, because you're even
Right.
further in the hole.
right, so I knew that we could handle and absorb the 160,000, not that it's fun and not that we want to do it, but at the same time, we'll
It's all
get
within
through,
recurring
we'll get
funds.
through it, and then, at least we're dealing with recurring funds where now, quite frankly, in whichever one happens, the municipal departments they're starting at least 150,000 in the hole next year.
Right.
So, those are the 2 proposals. So really it was taking the free cash, taking stabilization out of what the selectmen proposed, reducing the school operating budget to what we would normally have gotten had we gone through the normal process, and reducing some of the articles that were funded through the selectmen's budget.
So now, does this FinCom proposal go back to the selectmen for them to consider, or?
They have been informed as to what it is, and it is the selectmen's option to amend their own recommendation,
Okay.
but I don't see the finance committee making much adjustments to theirs.
Understood. Okay, so there's some, the Board of Selectmen could reconsider, they may or may not, but.
Right.
Okay.
Yep. So that's the budget update, and we'll get into more of that in working session. So I will now move to reorganizing the committee.
Mr. Chair,
Mr. Catalano.
I make a motion, or I nominate Ms. Gibbons as the chair for the upcoming year.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Did you vote for yourself?
She didn't. She abstained.
Jeez.
She did, so that's 4 yes and 1 abstain.
4 yes and 1 abstain.
No, all aye, Karen.
No, we're not gonna peer pressure into aye.
Shall I take the vote for secretary? And then we can switch seats.
Sure.
Yes,
Okay.
please.
Mr. Chair, I make a motion to nominate Mr. Conroy as secretary.
Second.
Fine with me. Yeah,
I'll do it again, I don't care.
I don't care. That's fine. All those in favor?
Aye.
All right. Motion carries. All right. Now we can switch seats.
Aye, that was it.
You should have some sort of music. Bring your placard. Bring your nameplate.
Bring your candy.
Leave the phone.
No, I
The
have-
phone's Denise's. She can have the phone.
No, I need to bring my phone. I need to bring my
Sign
pocket.
bills while
I need to sign the bills.
Sign bills now.
Hi, Nancy.
So,
How are you?
bills.
Well,
There's your gavel.
no,
We're all gonna be, she's gonna be wearing a robe.
no, nothing. I'm not doing anything. Oh, it goes this way, but we'll wait here. The next order of business is subcommittee reports. Elementary School Building Committee.
The election, the yes votes were, I don't actually have the votes in front of me, but it was a 61 to 39 spread yes for the project. The project has moved forward to town meeting, where we will have to, as a town, in a 2/3 majority, approve it's a warrant article to borrow money. So that's what we voted to go to town meeting, and now we're going to be the warrant is to actually go out and borrow the money, so.
When is town meeting?
Town meeting is June 5th.
That's a Monday.
It's a Monday night, and people need to be prepared. It could go very late. In fact, the Board of Selectmen said that town meeting can now go to 1 AM, which seems very late. And so there's been some scuttlebutt about a 2-night meeting, but it's not happening this year, so we are in the room for a long time.
There are fewer articles
Fewer articles.
than normal, so that'll help.
And they did remove the article that would ask about moving town meeting to Saturday.
Which would have been a long, drawn-out conversation.
Another-
Is the school still in the middle?
Yes, I believe so.
So we will remind people, but they can't vote for the school and then leave because someone at the very, very end can make a motion to, or what is it called?
Reconsider.
Reconsider. So you need to be prepared to stay to the end. And thank you for everyone who supported the project and all of the citizens and the volunteers who put signs up and actually went out there and voted. It was a good turnout.
The only other thing I'll add to that is this Friday, May 12th, representatives from Millis will be at the Massachusetts School Building Authority for the board meeting where we have already been recommended for approval for the project. But that's the final vote by the MSBA board, which would approve the project and the funding of the project, the state portion of the funding. After this Friday, where we expect the approval of the board, we would move into the formal process of the funding agreement, which is the guarantee money from the state, which is just shy of $21 million.
Is it Madam Chair? What did we say? Madam Chair?
Yeah.
The funding agreement, at what point would that be signed that we would have, that we could share with the community to say this is the commitment, or notes from that meeting to document their commitment to the funding?
I'm sure we can share notes from the meeting on Friday after we have it. I don't know on the funding agreement itself, so we can check with Compass Project Management and ask them just to see what the timing is on that.
But it will be, Friday's a public meeting.
Yeah,
We'll be
Friday's a
taking the
public-
vote, so
Yeah,
and it'll be contingent upon us obviously passing it
Correct.
at town meeting. But
Correct.
their end of the bargain will be
approved,
Approved
fully
that.
approved after Friday's meeting.
Thank you.
Are there any other subcommittee reports? Okay. Any correspondence?
In your packets, I am pleased to announce that Millis High School has been recognized by the Washington Post as among America's most challenging high schools. This award comes on the heels of being recognized by U.S. News and World Report as one of America's best high schools. The Post has created a challenge index and evaluates over 22,000 public high schools in the nation. The metric that they use is based on the number of students enrolled in college-level classes, which in Millis is advanced placement classes. Schools that had a challenge index of more than 1 were included, and only about 12% of the schools assessed by the Post earned this distinction. Were ranked 1,704 nationally, and our challenge index is well above 1. It's 1.637. So we are very proud of that distinction.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Thank you. Before we get to old new business, do we have school committee announcements? Anyone? Okay, I know we have some new business.
Yes, Madam Chair. In your packets, you also have the first pages of what we will be submitting as the RFP, the request for proposals, because 5 years of our contract with Chartwell's Food Services is coming to an end at the end of this fiscal year. So we have to go out to bid again for food services. April Yu, our business manager, has been working on this RFP. We will be posting it in the what's it called?
Combis?
The-
Combis. Goods and services?
Combis and goods and services, yes. It gets posted in 2 places, and there is a timeline where we will, because it takes a little bit of time to get it in goods and services and Combis, which is the Massachusetts place to post RFPs for this type of thing. The RFP will be released on May 15th. There will be a subcommittee looking at the proposals. There will be a walkthrough on May 22nd. Questions are due back to us, and we have a date on the 26th by which we need to respond to questions. And then their proposals to us will be for May 31st, with an anticipated date to bring it back to school committee with the recommendation of the committee of June 6th at our June 6th meeting, and then it gets approved and awarded after that on the 7th. Or I guess really the vote is on June 6th.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
are there typically any school committee members on that subcommittee?
I'm trying to remember if we did in 5 years ago, but typically not, but you're welcome to, and we would welcome people to participate in that process.
For me, I'm interested in, and I don't know how many vendors are out there, honestly, I have no idea. I know we've had Chartwell's for a long time, and we've worked effectively with them. For me personally, I'd like to see some healthier menu options, more fruits and vegetables and fewer sugary things, which the kids don't want to hear, but as a parent, I'm more interested in. So I don't know, and this is sort of formal, the RFP, but there's nothing in here listing our criteria and what we...
Right, we do have
I have the complete pack.
for you if you'd like. It's a 35-page RFP with
Okay.
several appendices, and we're happy to share that with the committee. And also, April will be, Miss Yu will be organizing the group to open the proposals and review them. If you'd like to be a part of that, please let us know.
I would like to be a part of that. And I know that local farms are interested in being involved with the school districts and are involved with other school districts, and maybe there are some restrictions in being able to, I don't know, you have to have preferred vendors and those sorts of things, but I don't know if it's, like Tangerini's down the road. I've had conversations with Mrs. Tangerini. She's interested in getting into the school system and providing organic and fresh foods from our local farms, so if that's anything else
That'd
we
be
could
great.
take into consideration.
And we can set up that meeting with our food service director, Sean Fallon, now.
Oh, okay.
We don't have to wait for this process.
Okay, that's good to know. Thank you.
Do we need to take a vote on this, to put this out, or is this just giving us a heads up?
No, I don't think we need a vote to put out the RFP.
Okay.
I wanted to bring it to the attention of the committee, but then after the subcommittee or the review group analyzes and selects the proposal, they will bring it back to the committee for a vote.
Thank you, Nancy.
Thank you.
I don't think we have any other old or new business. We're going to move to working session on the fiscal 18 budget. From there, we'll be moving to executive session, not to return to open session.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
I make a motion that we go to working session to work on the budget, and then after work,
Don't do the motion on the executive session until we're in work,
I make a motion to move to working session to work on the FY18 budget.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
You don't have to do a roll call for working session.
No,
that's
just
our
executive
No.
session.
Okay.
We'll have to take a roll call in the working session to move
To
to.
move exec, I'll try this. Okay.
Okay. That's it. Thank you, everyone.